Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Matt O'Donnell, Tamala Edwards, Karen Rogers, and meteorologist David Murphy.
Good morning. We continue to follow a developing story on this Wednesday, June 24th. PECO crews are out there in full force working to restore power to the hundreds of thousands of residents waking up this morning in the dark.
The severe weather will cause some major mass transit delays today. There will be no morning service on Patco. We've got the very latest. And
cleanup continues after high winds and rain pummel the area, toppling trees into buildings and knocking down power lines. Good morning out there. It is 4:30 now on this Wednesday, June 24th. Matt O'Donnell is off. Nydia Hahn is here. And we've got team coverage of the storm damage throughout the tri-state area.
And boy, what an afternoon and evening it was. Take a look as our social media follower, Gary, shows a lightning strike right on William Penn's head at City Hall in Center City yesterday. Lots of lightning, about 12,000 strikes across the region during the storms. 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts with a couple of funnel clouds reported and trees down, power outages. The worst hit area was a swath from southern Berks County and eastern Lancaster County all the way through Chester County, Delaware County, Philadelphia, southern Montgomery County, and then across the river in Camden and Gloucester County and parts of Atlantic County. Now, that's not to say you're not going to run into problems elsewhere, but these were the areas with most of those trees and wires down. As we take a look, thankfully that frontal boundary is off the coast now. We do have some clouds that are going to be thinning out pretty quickly today, and it is going to be a much different and more pleasant sort of day today. 71 degrees right now in Philadelphia, 67 in Wilmington, 65 in Allentown, 74 in Sea Isle City. Much lower humidity today. As we head out the door, mainly clear skies with some of those high clouds thinning out. 67 degrees by 6, 70 by 8 a.m. and again more comfortable. On your Storm Tracker 6 app today, no storms. 71 degrees right now, probably down to 70 by 8, and then up to 81 by noon, and by 3 o'clock 85 with a high of 86 today, rather late in the day, probably around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. We do have a couple of more chances of rain in the AccuWeather 7-day forecast. I'll have more on that coming up, Tam.
Now let's keep going with this developing story. People around the tri-state region waking up to see a lot of damage after powerful storms rake the area. Let's go over to Action News reporter Catherine Scott. She's starting our live team coverage in Washington Township, Gloucester County. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Tam. These storms were intense, and people in this neighborhood took cover when they blew through yesterday evening. We're by Cypress Court here in Washington Township, and you can see there's power lines in the street. There's debris from the trees, snapped branches. Some of the roads are blocked here. This neighborhood's going to spend today picking up after the storm.
The trees moving, it was unlike anything I had ever seen.
The Kenderdine family took cover in their basement shortly after 6 o'clock last night as severe storms hit Washington Township. When the family finally emerged, they couldn't believe the damage to their house, their car, their neighborhood.
It's hard to walk. There's power lines down all over the place. You're afraid to touch anything. But it's hard to maneuver and get through our neighborhood.
The winds were fierce, uprooting trees and pinning down power lines. In the parking lot of the Deptford Mall, a car flipped over. In Cherry Hill, trees crashed through house roofs and fences. Some roads were blocked. In Gibbstown, more destruction, utility poles mangled. The intensity of the storm took some by surprise.
It was awful. The sky got really dark, all this rain, wind. It just devastated our backyard, our neighbors. The shingles were blowing off, the trees were falling down.
And all of a sudden this huge whoosh of wind like pushed me back, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's here.
And a lot of people still shaken up by the storm this morning. Back here live by Cypress Court, you can see power lines are down, debris in the street. A lot of people without power this morning. Latest numbers show more than 100,000 people in this area. We are live in Washington Township. Catherine Scott, Channel 6 Action News.
A dramatic night for a lot of people. Thank you, Catherine. Action News reporter Aaron O'Hearn continues our coverage now from Brookhaven, Delaware County. A lot of cleanup to do there too, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Nydia, when we were driving up School Lane and North Gray, it was a little bit eerie. I understand it's still dark out, but there is not a light to be seen on this street. So obviously everyone in this area out of power. And take a look at this scene behind me. This is a tree, and you can see the branches have just snapped. It was totally uprooted. It landed on this resident's lawn. and it also took down a power line. This is a common scene that people will be waking up to this morning. This on the third day of what is supposed to be the lazy days of summer, but these people have an enormous job ahead. Let's look at some video from last night. At times, it looked like something out of a science fiction movie. The ominous clouds moved in, and so did the drenching rain and fierce winds. Massive trees were brought down by strong gusts of winds, as you just saw here. Residents reacted with a mix of amazement and fear. The intense storm ripped off building siding, shingles, and rooftops. The damage and power outages prompted the mayor to declare a state of emergency.
And I saw that the lower clouds were moving very fast underneath me, that are underneath the top clouds, and I ran back to go get the kids, and I said, nothing.
You knew that was trouble?
I knew right away that was trouble. The sky's just, you got that feeling.
And you could see it form, and it just came right down, right in close to here.
And I think you heard it there. He said he knew it was trouble. Now, PECO has made some progress. They are down to about 190,000 power outages, and that's from 225 at its peak. And the damage was not really widespread, but it was very heavy where it occurred. So that's going to make it even more difficult for the crews to clean up over the next few days. But of course, we'll have an update in the next half hour from PECO. We're live in Brookhaven. Erin O'Hearn, Channel 6 Action News. Back to you.
Okay, Erin, thank you for all of that. And the storm forced some evacuations across the Delaware Valley last night. This is some new video from a housing authority high-rise in the city of Chester. A power loss kept residents of the Edgemont Senior Apartments out of their units. In Wilmington, Delaware, power problems also caused an apartment complex to have to evacuate. This is the Lutheran Towers on the 1400 block of North Franklin Street. Residents boarded shuttle buses while they waited to get back inside their homes. Nearly 190,000 PECO customers are still waiting for the lights to go on. That's down, as you just heard Erin say, from nearly 230,000 overnight. But we're told some people may not get that power back until Thursday. Atlantic City Electric says it's got more than 164,000 customers in the dark. PSE&G is reporting nearly 51,000 customers affected by the outages, and Delmarva Power has 30,000 affected customers in Newcastle County. We'll have much more on the storm damage throughout the morning.
The same weather system that hit us brought large hail to Maryland as the temperatures climbed into the 90s. Yeah, did you hear that? Caught on camera, large hail falling in Lutherville. You can hear the large chunks of ice hitting the roof, and you can see it hitting the ground. You can also see the hail stripping the trees of some of their leaves. Nearly 20,000 Baltimore area residents are without power this morning. When severe weather moves into the area, check in often at 6abc.com/weather. You'll find the latest forecast plus live Storm Tracker 6 radar images, and our live Sky 6 cameras will give you a clear first look before you head out.
It's now 4:39 and still ahead, all new stories that you didn't see last night. A thief caught on camera stealing beer returns to the same store twice more.
Chocolate lovers, beware. A shortage in the cocoa supply could mean another price hike this summer. Details next. David.
Thankfully, we are dry on Storm Tracker 6 live double scan this morning. There are a couple of more chances of rain in the 7-day. I'll have those for you coming up with the rest of the AccuWeather 7-day forecast.
Action News viewers have been sharing photos and videos that they took from last night's storms. Take a look. Like these pictures of a car flipped over in the parking lot of the Deptford Mall. A tree came down on a car parked in a driveway in Pittman, New Jersey. And this is some of the damage left behind in the thoroughfare section of West Deptford, Gloucester County. The sidewall of a building just ripped right away. And then there's this video from Honeybrook, Chester County, with gusty winds and heavy rain, and one way too close encounter with a bolt of lightning. When weather events or breaking news happen in your neighborhood, we want you to join the action. Become part of the Action News team by emailing your photos and videos to jointheaction@6abc.com or use the hashtag 6abcaction on social media.
We really appreciate our viewers helping us tell the story. You got to use that hashtag, though, so we can find your pictures and videos. Right?
Yeah, and my neighborhood, couple of big tree branches. As I'm standing there texting my son saying, no, I'm not picking you up from guitar lesson for another half hour. Wait for the storm to go. Two big ones came down.
Yeah. Police in Atlanta are on the hunt for a brazen thief who walked out of a gas station without paying for his beer twice. Video shows a driver putting a trash can in front of the door to hold it open. He grabs 2 cases of beer, says something to the clerk, and walks out without paying. Minutes later, the same brazen bandit returns to grab some more beer and still isn't done. The man comes back for a 3rd time and attempts to steal again in front of a news crew. He sped off, nearly hitting the store's owner.
Some people, Nydia. Well, we're at the big board this morning to give you a first look at business. Now, this is not sweet news. Chocolate prices are rising. They're up 12% this year. Another price hike is likely. That's for the manufacturers themselves. Dry weather in Ghana and the Ivory Coast has limited production, and those 2 countries produce most of the world's cocoa. Now, last summer, major brands raised prices about 8%, but so far, we haven't seen the manufacturers pass this hike on to consumers. Not yet. Lego has launched a massive effort to rebuild its blocks. The company wants to manufacture its products using more environmentally friendly materials. Lego says that it's actually going to spend about $1 billion on this effort. All major markets had slight gains, and futures this morning are pointing, though, to what looks like a lower open. A new startup company will start offering unlimited flights for $1,500. OneGo says its new app-based service will start in the fall. It will let you take 1 checked bag, and it will use major carriers like Delta, United, American, and others. It'll be interesting to see how this works, if it's a game changer.
Yeah, depending on how much you fly, you could save a lot of money. Pretty impressive. 4:48 now, still ahead on Action News. Storms rolled through the tri-state area, leaving widespread damage. We have more new video from Delaware coming up.
And we have new information about the death of a Baltimore man that sparked nationwide protest. It was a close call for one Delaware family now left to clean up the mess from those destructive storms. The action cam was out in Newcastle last night, where a tree toppled onto a shed that had a man inside. As the storm approached, Christina Wright says her father and brother-in-law were trying to put lawn furniture away in that shed. She says the sky got dark and then the wind started to pick up.
We heard the cracking of the tree when the wind started picking up, and all of a sudden the tree just fell, and I just was like, you know, where's my dad and where's my brother-in-law? And that's all that mattered to me.
Wright says her brother-in-law was able to get her father out safely, though she says her father, as you might imagine, is pretty shaken up.
New this morning, a shooting in Delaware has left a man in critical condition. A 30-year-old man got shot in the head at 6th and Broome Streets in Wilmington at around midnight. It happened on the same block where a Delmarva utility crew was making emergency gas line repairs. Police took 1 man into custody for questioning.
It is now 4:54. All new in the next half hour of Action News. Details on a deadly confrontation on the streets of Philadelphia.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is talking about his arrest on a college campus. That's next on Action News. This morning, we have new details about the death of Freddie Gray. He's the man who died in police custody in Baltimore earlier this year. The Baltimore Sun's account of the autopsy report describes a, quote, high-energy injury, the kind someone might suffer when diving into shallow water, most likely caused by a sudden slowing of the van. Gray died after a spinal injury 1 week after officers put him in a police van. 6 officers charged in the case all pleaded not guilty on Monday.
We're getting some new details about the arrest of hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. He was arrested Monday after an incident at UCLA where his son is a football player. Combs Enterprises says Diddy was trying to protect himself and his son. Combs is accused of assaulting a football coach with a kettlebell. No one was injured. Combs was released from jail late on Monday after posting $50,000 bail.
It is now 4:57. Power continues to be a widespread problem across the Delaware Valley. It's having an impact on one transit agency especially. We have everything you need to know to help you get through your morning commute coming up.